It's Matt Heisler from Inside Real Estate with another video for you, and this one we're going to tackle what I think is one of the key essential questions for real estate. I don't get this question a whole lot. I'm kind of surprised though, and I think it's just because a lot of people either think that they've got it squared away one way or the other, so there's not a lot of debate in the middle. But the question really is, should I hire a buyer agent? Now, obviously, I'm very biased. But what I'm going to try and do here is lay out the case for doing that. I'm actually going to do several videos where I talk about how buyer agents can deliver real value for their consumers and ultimately be the start of a very productive, beneficial relationship for future homeowners or current homeowners as they get out there and start to search about their house. A little bit of word about this. I just want everyone to know out there that at this time, I help a lot of people buy houses. I have for over 23 years. The average house I sell for a buyer is somewhere between 800 and 1.2 million. It's something like that. And almost all the people I work with are at really challenging jobs and they're very, very intelligent. And one of the things that I have noticed is that because they aren't in the housing market, there is this experience gap. I mean, even if they've been in a house for 10 or 15 years, it's not uncommon for them to have difficulty with certain pricing situations. Some stuff they've already encountered and they're very good at that, and some stuff they are not. And when it comes to first-time buyers, I find that a whole bunch of them have what is typically referred to as conventional wisdom, which is pretty much worthless in most cases, and ultimately fail in a couple of key areas trying to figure out what things should be valued. They're excellent at figuring out what they like and what they don't like, but actually figuring out what the price is going to be is a completely different animal. And figuring out the price is key for a whole bunch of reasons. One of the reasons is because if it's a competitive situation, you want to win. You don't want to keep looking for houses, and understanding what the market value of this house is going to give you a leg up for winning. That helps you push the price up. But the other part that you want to be right about the valuation is you don't want to overpay. Now, during the pandemic, a lot of people overpaid. I don't want to say that they got away with it, but it probably didn't hurt them as bad as it might have because housing prices were going up 10, 15% a year. But what about when housing prices go up 3%? Well, if you overpay by 6%, you're going to be sitting in that house for 2 years before you see a penny of equity. And it might seem like 6% is an easy thing not to overpay by, but it turns out that even in stable markets, we see people routinely pay more than that amount, about 5 to 10% of the time. Just to sort of jump in and get started here, we're going to play a little game. Everyone likes games, right? Well, this is a game that you can play along at home or on your phone or wherever you are watching this video, for which I thank you very much. Don't forget, if you do like these videos, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps keep them coming. Okay, so now we're going to play a little valuation game. It's very simple. I'm going to show you a picture of a house, and then I'm going to say, this house is exactly like this house, and the pictures will be the same, except for, and then you have to tell me, based on the price of one, what the price of the other one will be. I don't want to make this video too long, so we're not going to do this too many times, but here's house number one. So this house, let's say it sold for $800,000, right? Pretty good house. And here it is. It sold for $800,000. And then there's this house over here. It is the same house. It is the same picture, but there's power lines, not the little power lines, but the big, ugly metal ones. And those power lines are visible from the backyard. Now, what should be the difference in these two houses? By the way, it's not uncommon for you not to know that house B has power lines because most real estate agents don't take pictures of the power lines. But with a little bit of research, it is pretty easy to uncover. And generally, as buyer agent, when I see a house that looks too cheap for me to sell, I start looking to figure out why. A lot of times the reason I come up with is power lines or some sort of other issue. But the end of the day, what kind of difference should they be? $800,000 over here for the nice house with no power lines. How much for this house over here? Well, if you said $640,000, I would tell you you're right. And the reason is because most people do not want to live next to high tension power lines. Hopefully you did well for that one. Let's try the next one. So here's this house, and here's the same house. Now, the difference between these two houses is this one has a brand new roof, and this one has a roof that is going to go. What should the price difference be between these two houses? Now, in this particular case, I won't give you an overall price because it turns out that the price differential between these two houses should be about the same. Ready? Ready? What's the difference? Okay. Since you've written that number down, I will tell you the difference is probably going to be about $16,000 between having the new roof and not having the new roof. And if you said, well, I'm not sure I could put a roof on that house for $16,000, you'd be right. It turns out that when you get a new roof, it's really not an equity builder. It pretty much just gets you dollar for dollar and sometimes not even full valuation for the new roof. All right, we're going to jump into another one. This one is especially tricky. There's this house, which does not have a pool, and this house, which does have a pool. Now, the pool surround here is extensive and complicated and beautiful, and the homeowner wasted no time telling you that they paid $175,000 to do that surround. So you have two houses here. How much is that pool with the surround and all the loveliness? How much extra are they going to get? Well, you may be asking a question, well, I don't know how old is the pool. Let's say for this example, the pool is about 10 years old. Got an answer yet? Okay, well, the answer here is probably somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000, depending on how it sets up on the lot and the land of the particular house. It's not $175,000. Although the homeowners would really, really like to get all that money back, it turns out that putting pools in with uh, extensive poolscapes like this is not really an equity building event. It usually builds negative equity by the time they're done. But you get to have a pool and that is worth it for a lot of folks. So there are reasons why you really can't get all that money back for a pool, but it doesn't really matter. What really matters is whether or not the market is willing to pay that extra money for a pool, and it turns out in most cases they are not. At this point, you're probably saying, well, Matt, these are all very interesting examples, but you know, I'm not going to buy a house that's next to power lines, and I don't want a house with a pool, so I'm not going to have any trouble. So we'll do another one. Okay, we're going to jump right in there and we'll say, what about this house, which has a brand new kitchen, and this house, which has a 30-year-old kitchen, and it looks it, right? So one, the kitchen's been done, one hasn't. These houses are the same in every other way. And the question here is, what are you going to pay? So the one with the brand new kitchen, that one's going to get 900,000. And what does that make the one that doesn't have the kitchen worth? Well, most of the time, I would tell you it's probably about $800,000. There should be about $100,000 difference between these two houses, assuming that's the only difference. Now, a lot of times it's not. And one of the harder parts about real estate is I've given you the most simplistic situations here where the houses are exactly the same, but the reality is no two houses are exactly the same. The lots are different, the conditions different, the styling's different. At the end of the day, real estate agents get very practiced at making these kinds of evaluations. Some folks can even do it on their head. I actually prefer to go back and look at comps most of the time and make sure that I understand what the various town levels are telling me in terms of prices. But the reality is we have pretty good ideas of where these houses will sell and the kinds of adjustment the market will make, depending on whether or not the market is going up or whether or not the market is going down, because it turns out that can be a difference too. In a down market, houses that need a lot of cosmetic improvements, they sell even cheaper than the number I laid out here for the house that needed a new kitchen. In an up market, that gap can close. People care less about cosmetics when the market is moving straight up. Okay, so after all of that, I'm sure you're saying, but Matt, there's AI. And Zillow's had AI. They've had house valuations forever. So I'm going to leave you with this. This is a chart of a recent sale in Framingham. I'm not going to mention the house, right? So, but you can see here at this peak, this is before it was listed. Zillow thought that this home was worth over $1 million before an agent went in there and said, well, it's not. And the agent went in there and listed it at 820,000. And that was low. But at the end of the day, it sold at 840,000, meaning if you'd relied on Zillow for a valuation of this home, you would have overpaid by $160,000. Now, I don't know about you, maybe you've got an extra $160,000 lying around, but Zillow here had the price wrong on this home for almost 2 years. Well, and really 2 years ago, the number that they had on it wasn't right either. So Zillow is very simplistic calculation, much like assessment-driven calculations. They look at age, they look at size, they look at square footage, but there's a lot of stuff that they can't see. They can't see condition and they can't see floor plan. And in this particular case, I couldn't see lot. The house that I have chosen here does not have a backyard. So this is a classic situation where Zillow would make a mistake. So now, what's interesting about it here is the agent who listed the house, they were not fooled. They knew that the house was not worth $1 million, and I'm sure someone told them that Zillow said it was. But at the end of the day, I think um, the humans are still in control of figuring out what the prices need to be based on the other sales that are out there. So, listen, if you ace this test, congratulations. I give you my blessing. You probably do not need a buyer agent. You know all there is to know about valuations. But if you struggled on this test and you weren't quite sure about what your answer should be, or it made you a little bit more nervous, then why not enlist the use of a professional to make sure that your offers are coming in not just where the seller will take them, but ultimately around where the house is fairly valued. And that's really what you want to do because then if the housing market goes up 3%, you made 3% equity. Really, that's what buying a house is all about. It's about making sure that you're building equity. And if you have a buyer agent, your chances of building equity from day one are much higher. That's it for this video. My other buyer agent videos, if you want to see them for the other reasons why you might want to have a buyer agent, they're going to be linked in the comments below, and I hope to see you soon.